Have you ever wondered what actually happens when Silicon Valley code crashes head-on into Wall Street's trillion-dollar vaults? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating financial evolution. We're tracking the story of how a seemingly standard crypto application quietly, yet aggressively morphed into a systemic institutional powerhouse by the second quarter of 2026. And look, this isn't just a story about tech upgrades. It is a full-blown corporate thriller involving multi-billion-dollar assets, a glaring structural paradox, and an existential showdown with legacy Wall Street. So get ready, because the fundamental mechanics of how money moves on a global scale are being entirely rewritten. Just take a look at this staggering number, $3 billion. That's Ondo Finance's total value locked, basically the crypto equivalent of assets under management. And that massive footprint immediately established them as the absolute commanding titan of real-world assets, or RWAs. They're not just riding the tokenization trend. Across networks like Ethereum, Solana, and the XRP ledger, they've built the primary liquidity layer for institutional capital operating on-chain. So let's move into Act 1, the $3 billion powerhouse, and see exactly how they pull this off. Okay, let's break down that scale and see what traditional assets Ondo is turning into on-chain superpowers. They basically split their empire into two very distinct risk profiles. On one side, you've got USDY. This is essentially a tokenized bearer note functioning as senior secured debt backed by US Treasuries. It operates entirely permissionless, acting as a massive magnet, but strictly for non-US offshore capital. On the other side is OUSG. Now, this is an entirely different beast. It's highly permissioned, limited strictly to qualified global purchasers, and it provides this incredibly low-friction exposure to sovereign debt by routing underlying assets directly into institutional funds like BlackRock's Butyl. It's honestly a perfect split of open decentralized access and strict institutional compliance. But here's the thing. They aren't just stopping at treasuries. In a stunning expansion, their Global Markets Division, or OGM, just blew past the $1 billion mark. They've essentially cornered the market, capturing a staggering 70% of all tokenized equity issuance. We are talking about instant on-chain exposure to the S&P 500, NVIDIA, and even BlackRock's Bitcoin Trust. And OGM is scaling this fast because it solves some literally massive institutional headaches. I mean, historically, if you held a tokenized stock, you were basically locked out of corporate voting. Ondo fixed that with their Broadridge integration, letting you verifiably vote your proxy rights natively right from your crypto wallet. Plus, their global listing primitive allows pre-IPO assets to trade instantly on public ledgers on IPO day, which completely democratizes access to equity that used to be locked tightly behind Wall Street's closed doors. Which brings us to Act 2, rewiring global settlements. Now, this is where the actual plumbing of global finance gets a massive upgrade. Think about it. Have you ever tried to wire money internationally on a weekend? It takes days, right? Well, in May 2026, Ondo, alongside heavyweights like JP Morgan, MasterCard, and Ripple, executed a landmark transaction. They pulled off the very first live, cross-border, cross-bank redemption of a tokenized US Treasury asset. This finally shattered the historical payment leg bottleneck that had bogged down real-world assets for years. Let's actually break down how this magic trick works, entirely outside of normal banking hours. First up, the asset leg. Ripple initiates the redemption of OUSG natively on the XRP ledger, settling in their stablecoin, RLUSD, in an astonishing 4.2 seconds. Next, the interoperability layer. MasterCard's multi-token network steps in, grabs that on-chain data, and translates it instantly into legacy bank instructions. Finally, the fiat leg. JP Morgan's commercial blockchain rail instantly debits Ondo's account and clears real fiat USD directly into DBS Bank in Singapore. It's a wildly complex cross-border settlement, flawlessly executed in seconds. But Ondo realized pretty quickly that to have total sovereign control over these massive rails, they couldn't just rent general-purpose block space. So they went ahead and launched OndoChain. This is a custom Layer 1 blockchain engineered specifically for institutions. They fundamentally shifted from just packaging assets to being a foundational infrastructure provider by baking compliance, like KYC and anti-money laundering checks, directly into the core code of the network itself. But here's where things get really interesting. Act 3, the value capture paradox. This is where our corporate thriller takes a major twist. We've seen the massive growth, right? But look closely at these Q2 2026 tokenomics metrics. You've got an operational protocol managing a massive $3.01 billion TVL. But then, look at the spot price of the native Ondo token. It is severely suppressed, sitting around just 25 cents. When you divide the circulating market cap by that total value locked, you get a dismal 0.41 ratio.
Basically, the token is trading at a profound fundamental discount compared to the massive wealth it manages. So why is that happening? Now, to be fair, part of this drag is purely mechanical. Back on January 18th, 2026, Ondo hit this massive vesting cliff. Nearly 2 billion previously locked insider tokens flooded into the circulating market. That heavily dilated the supply, and even with market makers absorbing some of the shock, that sheer volume acted like a persistent, heavy anchor on the token's valuation. Sure, supply dilution is a factor, but that really leads us to the absolutely crucial question of this whole explainer. It's the paradox every institution is debating right now. If the protocol is successfully managing over $3 billion, why on earth isn't the token capturing any of that success? Well, here is your billion-dollar paradox, the structural cash flow flaw. Literally every single dollar of those asset management fees, the interest rate spreads, the mint and redeem charges, all of it goes exclusively to the centralized corporate entity Ondo Finance Inc. The Ondo DAO and the token holders by extension, they receive exactly zero organic cash flow. The token is strictly a non-productive governance asset. You get to vote, but you absolutely do not get a cut of the revenue. Now, I want to be clear, this is not an accident or some developer oversight. Actually, it's a highly deliberate legal shield. By cutting out dividend distributions or profit sharing, Ondo is actively making sure the token isn't legally classified as an unregistered security under strict global frameworks. They intentionally traded away economic value capture purely for regulatory survival. Which leads us to our final chapter, Act 4, the Wall Street Threat. So that defensive corporate structure, it actually worked perfectly. The SEC closed its inquiry without enforcement, and the Clarity Act provided a nice safe harbor. But just as the regulatory skies finally cleared, a brand new existential threat popped up. Visually, the threat is stark. Look at the bottom. That's Ondo's current model, wrapping assets like BlackRock's BUDL and pushing them through crypto rails. But look at the top. Multi-trillion-dollar legacy Wall Street titans are now attempting to skip the middleman entirely. They're issuing directly on-chain, threatening to cut out crypto-native wrappers like Ondo for good. This is the ultimate disintermediation risk. We're talking about giants like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton aggressively scaling their own direct ledgers. Because these legacy institutions actually control the underlying assets, they naturally have lower fee structures from top to bottom, not to mention decades of deep institutional trust. If an allocator can just go straight to JP Morgan natively on a blockchain, the whole need for an intermediary wrapper diminishes real fast. So what's Ondo's actual defense against this Wall Street machine? Really, it comes down to their crypto-native agility. BlackRock might have massive scale, sure, but they are completely bogged down by legacy compliance rules and slow updates. Ondo, on the other hand, can instantly orchestrate liquidity. They can snap their highly liquid assets into diverse DeFi protocols like financial Lego blocks, vastly faster than legacy banks ever could even dream of. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to wrap up our explainer. As these legacy titans wake up and drop multi-trillion-dollar balance sheets directly onto custom ledgers, the war for the future of global finance is officially on. Can Ondo's lightning-fast speed, their custom Layer 1 chain, and multi-protocol composability actually survive the Wall Street invasion? Or will the sheer gravitational pull of traditional finance simply swallow the crypto-native middleman whole? It is without a doubt the most critical question in the RWS space today, and how it plays out is going to define the next decade of digital finance. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.